To unlock its full potential, we need regulatory systems that are science, agile, and supportive.
Effective regulation protects consumers while enabling responsible innovation to reach the market safely and efficiently. When innovators, regulators, industry, and consumers work together, we create an environment where breakthrough ideas can thrive and public trust can grow. The future of food is being shaped today. By fostering innovation and building supportive regulatory frameworks, we can deliver safer, healthier, and more sustainable food systems for generations to come. G-Force is committed to advancing responsible food innovation through regulatory collaboration, scientific excellence, and knowledge sharing.
Well, thank you very much, Sam, for kind of introduction. Assalamualaikum. Distinguished guests, college, scientists, regulators, industry leaders, policymakers, ladies and gentlemen. Very good morning for me. I would like to thank you to Professor Sam and G-Force and also AFRAF for inviting me to come to this very famous region in the world, Egypt. Very ancient and also very strong, citizenship and role in the global citizenship. And also I would like to congratulate for your having this important event. When I listened to all the regulators sharing the knowledge yesterday, is very rich and we learn from each other. And I think G-Force is very fortunate. This event, when we have three presidents of IUF was with you. So I'm the president, Fafini is the president-elect, and I'm the past president. The president of IUF was really supporting what G-Force is doing to serve the needs of the world. And congratulate to Fafini for having such, excellent contribution, starting from Thailand and G-Fern, but now it's also becoming the global, knowledge and experiences. So throughout history, a nation has been defined not only by what they possess, but what they are able to create from what they possess. Some nations were transformed by minerals, some by energy resources, some by technology. Africa possesses something equally valuable, one of the world's richest reservoir of biodiversity, indigenous knowledge, and cultural wisdom. This asset has been accumulated through centuries of observation, experimentation, adaptation, and experience. Yet the true value of these resources is not determined by what exists today. It is determined by what Africa chooses to do with them tomorrow. Therefore, I think the central question before us is, can Africa transform its extraordinary heritage into scientifically validated health innovation that improve lives, create prosperity, and earn global trust? This is the journey we will explore today. When Sam saying that I'm sharing the context of ASEAN, well, I'm using the same template when I did in Bangkok, but now during the 2 days this exercise, I try to also dig some of the information from Africa. Hopefully, this also share my opinion about Africa's future vision from my perspective. When people hear the terms health claims, many things immediately about labels of food packages. But health claims are much more than marketing tools. They represent the intersection of science, innovation, regulation, and consumer trust. For scientists, health claims create incentive to generate evidence. For industry, they justify investment in innovation. For regulators, they provide mechanism to protect consumers. From consumers, they create confidence and informed choice. For Africa, health claims can contribute to something even larger. They can support public health. They can strengthen food and nutrition security. They can stimulate entrepreneurship and SMEs development. They can create opportunities for regional and global trade. Ultimately, health claims are the visible expression of scientific credibility. They transform research finding into information that consumers can trust. So next. When Africa's wealth is discussed, attention often focuses on minerals, energy, agriculture, or natural resources. But perhaps Africa's greatest wealth remains largely invisible. Africa hosts approximately 1/4 of the world's biodiversity, more than 45,000 plant species, and over 5,000 indigenous food species. Within this extraordinary biodiversity are remarkable examples like baobab, moringa, rooibos, hibiscus, ponyo, and teff. These are not merely commodities. They are biological libraries. They are repositories of knowledge. They are opportunities waiting for scientific exploration. Every unexplored species can become a research question. Every traditional practices can become a scientific hypothesis. Every indigenous food can become a future innovation. This is why Africa is not only rich in biodiversity, Africa is rich in innovation potential. There is a common misconception that traditional knowledge belongs to the past. I would argue the opposite. Traditional knowledge is one of humanity's oldest innovation system. For generations, communities have observed nature, experimented with foods and plants, adapted practices to local conditions, improved methods over time. This cycle of observation, experimentation, adaptation, and improvement mirrors the very essence of scientific inquiry. The World Health Organization estimates that up to 80% of Africans continue to rely partly on traditional medicine as part of their primary health care. This demonstrates that indigenous knowledge remains relevant, dynamic, and influential today. The challenge before us is not whether traditional knowledge has value. The challenge is now, how do we document it, understand it, validate it, and build scientific evidence around it. Preserving culture, inspiring innovation. Before discussing scientific evidence, it is important to recognize something fundamental. Many traditional food systems already recognize cultural value. Well, I would like to share that I was the ambassador of Indonesia to UNESCO, and I was the president of Intergovernmental Committee on Intangible Cultural Heritage Convention 2003. So I dig some information from the website. What is the position of Africa? UNESCO has acknowledged several African culinary traditions as intangible cultural heritage of humanity under the Convention of 2003. The example includes couscous across North Africa, the year of 2020 by Algiers, Mauritania, Morocco, and Tunisia. And the second one is Cebu Jen in Senegal, recognized in 2021. And the third one, Harissa in Tunisia. It is what Sam told us, during the dinner. 2022. It's all recognized in the list of inscription of World Heritage, intangible cultural heritage. So the conclusion reminds us that food is much more than nourishment. Food carries history. Food carries identity. Food carries knowledge. Food carries memory. Just as Indonesia's jamu is kind of drink, was recognized by UNESCO as a living knowledge system, Africa possesses a rich mosaic of food tradition and indigenous practices that deserve preservation and recognition. However, cultural recognition alone is not enough. Recognition preserves heritage. Science validates benefits. Innovation creates value. The challenge for Africa is to connect these three dimensions while ensuring that communities remain the custodian and beneficiaries of their knowledge. This brings us to an important principle where heritage is not the destination. Heritage is the starting point. Traditional practices may tell us what communities have found useful. Science helps us understand why. The transformation has already begun. Rooibos evolved, I think the name of the inscription list, evolved from a local traditional knowledge into a globally recognized product. Baobab has moved from indigenous use into international ingredient markets. Moringa has become the subject of thousands of scientific studies. These examples illustrate a powerful innovation pathway. Traditional knowledge generates question. Science generates answer. Innovation generates opportunities. The future of African health innovation depends on accelerating this journey from heritage to evidence. This slide represents the central message at this presentation. Science is the bridge between heritage and innovation, where traditional knowledge tells us where to look. Scientific research generates evidence. Evidence supports innovation. Regulatory system establish credibility. Consumer trust enable adoption. And adoption creates societal impact. So without science, traditional knowledge remains anecdotal. Without innovation, discoveries remain in journals. Without regulation, consumer lack of confidence. Without trust, innovation cannot achieve impact. So science should therefore not replace traditional knowledge. Science should strengthen traditional knowledge through evidence. Now, why Africa can lead? Many regions possess advanced research infrastructure. Many possess strong regulatory system, but few possess the unique combination of assets available in Africa. This is an extraordinary biodiversity, rich indigenous knowledge system, a young and dynamic population. We witnessed also yesterday the academy of establishment through this initiative. This is indicating also the probably commitment and future vision how to move Africa in the future. So expanding the regional markets, growing scientific capacity, together this asset can create a unique opportunity. Africa does not need to imitate others. Africa can create its own innovation pathway, a pathway that respects culture while embracing science, a pathway that promotes innovation while protecting consumers, the pathways that transform local knowledge into global value. So as traditional knowledge becomes increasingly valuable, important questions emerge. Who owns the knowledge? Who benefits from innovation? How do we present misappropriation? How do we How do we ensure fair and equitable benefit sharing? This question cannot be answered by science alone. They require governance. They require international cooperation. UNESCO safeguards heritage. WIPO protect knowledge. WTO facilitate fair trades. The African Union provide policy leadership. And Africa CFTA create support and opportunities for continental integration. Together, they help create a framework where innovation, fairness, and sustainability can coexist. So no innovation, ecosystem succeed in isolation. Researchers cannot work alone, industry cannot innovate alone, regulators cannot build trust alone, communities cannot preserve knowledge alone. So success required an ecosystem. Biodiversity provides resources. Traditional knowledge provides inspiration. Science generates evidence. Investment enables scale. SMEs create value. Consumer create demands. And market create opportunities. When these all elements work together, innovation becomes sustainable. This is the ecosystem Africa must continue to be built. And I learned Rob also from yesterday and also from Thailand because Prof. Sofyan is the president of the FERN. So we learned a lot how this bridging between science regulation and also the consumer acceptability. So allow me to conclude with the vision. For generations, Africa has exported raw materials while much of the value creation occurred elsewhere. The future can be different. Africa should not merely export biodiversity. Africa should export science. Africa should export innovation. Africa should export trusted health solutions. The pathway is clear. Biodiversity creates opportunities. Research generates knowledge. And innovation creates products. Entrepreneurship creates jobs. And job creates prosperity. So prosperity will improve health and quality of life. The future of African health innovation lies not benefit the soil, but within the knowledge of its people. Our collective responsibility is to transform knowledge into evidence, evidence into innovation, and innovation into prosperity. So, in closing, let me again iterate that indigenous knowledge inspires discovery, science creates evidence, and innovation creates prosperity. Regulation builds trust, and together they create a future where Africa becomes not merely a source of biodiversity, but a global leader in health innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Aman, for this very inspiring talk and actually showing us the tremendous potential that the continent has, not only in terms of the heritage that the continent enjoys, but how to transform that heritage more and more into the opportunities ahead. And that's definitely those principles and those directions will certainly guide the work that this expert working group will be carrying out. And we're definitely also hoping to benefit from the experience in other geographies, in other areas, but building on the capacities, the competencies, and the heritage that the continent enjoys. With that, actually, we have a few minutes if you have any questions to Professor Aman or any comments before we move forward. Penny, just going to ask if there is a microphone, colleagues, Mohammed and colleagues. Just there is
Thank you very much, Prof. Very interesting. I'd like to ask, how do we protect indigenous knowledge? As South Africa, I see that you put our one product up there as rooibos. and we experienced somebody patenting rooibos in a foreign country. I won't mention the name. So how do we go about ensuring that that is not stolen from Africa? Thanks.
Okay, this is very excellent, very good question. I think we also experiencing the similar challenges when I was the ambassador in UNESCO, how that you can protect the heritage within our community, our nation. And the approach at that time, through the collaboration, like when the recognition of couscous is not only coming from one country, but coming from different countries, they work together. The same thing also when you have the case of the Mediterranean diets. Is it the belong to Greeks or belong to, you know, Italy or some region in North Africa? So we have, again, a common approach how to integrate this one. So by using this approach, I hope that we can have a more peaceful and more respect and recognition from each other. That's why I certainly urge the African really to be strong, and due to the AFRAF and also the, you know, the regional coordination, that we can identify how we can work together. But I know we will become claimed by other countries. The same thing also happened with Indonesia when some of Indonesian become the Malaysian, you know, in heritage. So they bring along the culture with them, and they claim as a Malaysian, you know, recognition. But we try to work together. So I think this is the way that we try to solve the problem within the capacity in the cultural, you know, convention 2003. Thank you. Very, very good question. Yeah. But in the WIPO and other it's different, because we are not talking about the trading practices and, you know, the patent and everything. We are talking about the ownership of our humanity. We can respect each other. We can understand. We can appreciate each other. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that answer, Prof. Aman. If I may build actually now from actually using your direction about science being the bridge, actually, and there are also some scientific aspects that can be invested in order to at least support the attribution. If we are talking now about attribution, particularly for crops or for some particular cultivars, let's say, again, science and particularly analytical science can be a tool that does that to be able to have a map of authenticity of products. And a lot of products that are resulting from heritage can suffer from issues of, well, mainly fraud related practices. And that's where authenticity, investment in authenticity, scientific tools would allow to protect that.
Yes, I agree with that, Sam. Thank you for, again, strengthening my...
Exactly, strengthening really the point about science really being really a great foundation,
I agree with
to support the heritage component.
Thank you, Payne. Very good question. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question from our colleague in Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Professeur, vous allez m'aider?
Oui, aucun problème.
Vous savez, nous avons certains produits traditionnels dont on sait que l'utilisation n'a pas un impact négatif sur la santé, des produits traditionnellement consommés par nos ancêtres. Voilà, j'aimerais savoir au niveau de l'Indonésie, pour ce genre de produits, comment ils les évaluent? Est-ce qu'il n'essaie pas d'alléger les évaluations pour ne pas créer trop de barrières aux PME qui s'intéressent à ces innovations-là? Ou est-ce que on va développer encore une lourde batterie de gros tests pour ces produits-là?
Juste pour comprendre, en fait, vous parlez de produits dont les effets bénéfiques sont essentiellement documentés par l'histoire, par la tradition, mais pas nécessairement par la science. C'est ça?
Oui.
D'accord. So the question is, we have a lot of products, and Aman, please feel free to join me if you don't mind. There are lots of products that are that have been used traditionally, and there is historical information about their health benefits, mostly information that is passed through tradition and through essentially intergenerational exchange.
Yeah.
But there isn't really an evidence around those. And he's asking, what is the experience of Indonesia or other countries about dealing with these products? Can we actually give them access using the traditional knowledge as one of the source of information, or should we subject them to a regime where we need all the scientific foundation and all the evidence required, etc., basically that can constitute barriers to their access to market?
Well, again, probably this is the importance of collaboration you mentioned, in this working group. I know that to some extent, some people think that they're trying to protect their information. But in this now digital era, information is everywhere. So you can access, but I think it's a good what you call it, a good common intention for all of us. Maybe we can develop a common platform that we can work together. That's what we are doing in ASEAN, where all the adhering bodies of IUFOS, they're working also together to address some common issues. And we can inform each other and trying also to put into the more acceptable, adoptable regulatory exercise, then we can together. That's why the importance of presence of industry, presence of the community, the presence of regulators, scientific, we have to work together. So with this exercise, I hope that those gaps and also differences can be settled. And by, again, we are respecting each other and a common understanding how to find a solution for that. But at the end of the day, probably what our aim is to get the information and assurance that this is the food that's good for healthy diets, good for improving the human quality, and where the scientist is supporting that to get the evidence to assure that the government and regulation should also protect all the interests, sovereignty of the country, consumer health, and also the fair trading. So this can be discussed together. I think what we are doing in Codex, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And in fact, maybe again, to build on that, I think, this is very important proposal to make. If we can identify a series of products that are right now documented with traditional knowledge, and we know that they have been consumed, and there are some, either claims or some, let's say, traditional knowledge that tends to characterize their benefits. I think identifying those, mapping or identifying what is the associated knowledge about them, looking at options for market access that would allow still these products to be potentially more propagated, but with the caveat that any claims or any information around them is right now stemming from traditional knowledge. So essentially not misleading the consumer that this is with evidence that is, fully documented. But at the same time, as Aman was mentioning, to actually trigger potentially investment that would allow efforts of characterization, efforts of documentation that would potentially bring a stronger argument and therefore strengthen any type of claim or even support the development of other claims associated with them. So I think this is what also a group like this can spearhead. You identify, a series of priorities that you would like to work on, both trying to find regulatory solutions, and we can be creative as regulators on that, but also try to foster the investment for a better characterization.
Well, I add up one more information is important. When we had the meeting in Hong Kong, there was one young professor from Indonesia, and he informed us and shared with us, he's developing the nomenclatures and the commentary and the books on all the traditional knowledge information that related to the health, as the food, as the culinary. So this information, again, based on scientific evidence. This is very, very important. So we can establish a similar approach within the region. I think we can share a lot of rich information together for the benefit of our nation, our society, this, they call it impactful. So the G-Force initiative, that's what I appreciate, Sam, for that. Generate also inspire us because of the discussion in Hong Kong. He shared with you, Sam, right? Now I'm writing this book, and this can be done together, for the benefit of all of us.
Yeah. So creating potentially some information sharing platforms, identifying those, and actually maybe mobilizing the regulatory community to find regulatory pathways for those, while at the same time, trying to see how we can further document the information, and also making sure that that information, just like actually the Indonesian example, is shared, is propagated, because that's also that's one of the challenges that we have, is that the information sometimes is in different pockets. And even though we are in the age of digitization and so on, you know what it is. When you have too much information, it's almost equivalent of a gap of information, because you don't know where to search anymore. And finding really repositories of the information that are managed in a trustworthy way would allow to address this, to alleviate that. So we're going to note that as potentially one of the suggestions, and maybe if it's agreed upon as one of the recommendations of a path forward. The example that, actually speaking about Hong Kong, the example that the Asian community did, they selected goji berry.
Yeah.
Goji berry is a berry that is growing a lot in Asia and in China in particular. A lot of traditional knowledge about it. A lot of, beliefs about, all the benefits, on the nervous system, on behavior, etc., mood, and so on, and other, I guess, effects. And the question was, well, it's not fully documented, but why not? Actually, we take it as an example and we run with it. And there was a selection of that. So if you have a proposal that you would like to make that comes from Africa, why not? We can take that and see how we can progress it further. So,
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Dr. Mervet. I think, stay a little bit more. No, say a little bit more.
Okay.
Aman, if the question is for
Yes,
you, I don't know.
Thank you, Dr. Aman, for the very interesting presentation.
Okay.
And about the information, we have the ARSO, which is the African Organization for Standardization, has a technical committee for a traditional medicine, African tradition, which is ATM, Technical Committee 82. We developed many monographs for the plant in the Africa. We can use this source for the innovations and the functional ingredient, to pick up the functional ingredients from many medicinal plants and use it as a source of this food ingredient or functional ingredient. It's very, very interesting, and have many, many information. And we are developed many monographs in this source.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
I think that's very excellent information. I just would like to add another example. Now Indonesia also proposing tempeh, is the fermented of soybean, to become one of the lists in the intangible cultural heritage. If you see the history of tempeh about 400 years ago in the country, but all the patents, all the scientific information is belong to the Western countries. It's not to Indonesian. So how that we can again preserve, safeguard, and continuously delivering to our younger generation understanding about our traditional knowledge. But again, I think this becoming more now easy to access in the digital era, so information can be done. And with that recognition, probably is one way also to show to the world there's really a traditional knowledge coming from Africa. This I would like to underline this importance. You initiate and you work on how to build this belief and also confidence that the traditional knowledge for the health activities in Africa is not only documented in the monograph but also being recognized by international community. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Another intervention. Please. Yes, a lot of interest.
It's a great discussion, by the way. And thanks a lot. It's very inspiring and interesting. And I'm reflecting, there are lots of thoughts, and also reflecting on the challenges that were shared yesterday. And I'm like a solution-oriented person. So I see a great opportunity on sharing the data. So I think we have a lot of safety data across markets. And I'm coming from the pharmaceutical industry. We used to have what is called mutual recognition. So if a product is approved in one market, it can be approved in the other market. So let us think, how can we make this safety data available to all markets between Asia and Africa as well, not for one country or one continent. So how to make this shareable data accessible, the safety data accessible by everyone. And also another proposal is there are markets or countries that has a very good regulatory framework. If because I'm working globally, so for example, if I mention Japan, Japan has a very clear regulatory framework. And from what I heard yesterday, the reference to have a reference, like when we have codex, we do not have any problem. But if there is no codex or no reference from codex, we have a big problem. So why not to take Japan in functional food, functional claims? They have the FFC regulatory framework and translate it and have it as a reference for several markets. So this is.
Thank you for this. In fact, you are probably going to be leading the way in the discussions that we're going to have, hopefully after Professor Pavani's presentation. Again, and the idea of that was launched in Asia with the creation of GFERN. And we're going to explain what that is. I mean, we mentioned it is the Global Food Innovation and Regulations Network. The idea would be, and this is, we can share it right now as a pre-idea, that basically this group can become one node of GFERN and essentially work on aspects related to Africa. But because we are in the global network, there is a possibility of cross-pollination. There is a possibility of benefiting from the information that other networks within this structure is. So the idea is to have a network with different nodes. Each node is a network on its own, you know, and it's really a network of network idea, and really leveraging the competencies, leveraging the resources as much as we can. And I even building now on what was mentioned. And here, in fact, I'm going to be making a call for help because I have to ask for this. Dr. Mirvet, you mentioned ARSO. ARSO is a very important organization in Africa and actually is, you know, looked upon as the reference by many regulators, standardization organization. And ARSO is a very busy organization as well. And I have to admit, I have had some challenges, even at the individual level, trying to reach out to a number of committees, etc., because it's heavy. They have a heavy agenda. So here, I know that many of you are involved in ARSO processes, and I would like to ask your leadership to be able to connect, because you know where, you know who, you know how, and we could potentially connect such that there are synergies that are established between the processes that we might be developing here, particularly the science-driven processes, and the standardization approaches that are being looked at within the ARSO structure. So I'm putting this as an item that we will be getting as one of the action items and a path forward for the expert working group.
Can I get another example?
Please.
Just small one.
Yes, please.
We're talking about this, recognition and collaboration and synergistic, efforts. Again, using Tempe. Tempe also is being discussed in the Codex, regional committee, and it was standardized, recognized by Codex, and now it's becoming a global, understanding and appreciation that is becoming a global, commodities or product. So again, the role of the regional group is very, very important to provide this information, and we can work together again, as suggested by G-Force and also in Academy of AFRA, that we can work together among countries and scientists and also regulators and also industry to work together.
Thank you. Another comment from our colleague from Ghana. It's amazing. I mean, this is what we want, an engaged dialogue from everybody. So thank you for that. Please.
Thank you very much, Prof, for the wonderful presentation. It's an eye-opener, looking at the trust that regulation builds and then what the drives of innovation. Taking indigenous food, for example, you mentioned moringa. With all the health benefits that are documented and all that, what or why should, say, regulators prevent an SME that is packaging moringa from putting on the packaging these health claims associated with moringa because of a codex text that suggests that one food in itself does not impact health? Knowing very well that moringa is documented to having all these health benefits. And then a food processor decides to package moringa and then put the health claims on it. But we do not allow it. At least in Ghana, we will not allow those health claims of a plant like moringa that a food processor has put on it. Why will that become a regulatory challenge for us, that will not allow anyone to make health claims on foods because of that text in Codex that suggests that one food in itself does not impact health? What would be your position on this, please?
Well, I think it's again very important when we are trying to recognize the heritage history of the certain commodities. I think Indonesia also get the very big beneficiaries of Africa, heritage. The palm oil plant is coming from Africa. They brought it, I think the British at the time, one plant, it's become the resource of all the palm oil plantation in Indonesia. And now Indonesia is becoming the largest palm oil producers with million of hectares over there. So I think it's the same thing also in the case of moringa. I think it is very important. And all the international organizations like FAO, WHO, Codex, or maybe WTO, it can be addressed this issue together from different perspectives. Again, scientific information is very important, but understanding, also appreciating the heritage, the original, as I said, the tracer, study information. Even like us, when they are taking our DNA, mostly part of our DNA coming from Africa, right? It's coming also from China, from India. So I think this is very, very important. In this open world now, we have to be more open-minded and trying to understand each other, respecting each other, and having the collaboration with the investor from industry. Then we can empower. We can also make some, opportunity to open to many countries, including, of course, Africa. So that's my thought, probably a thought for this question. I don't know whether I addressed the question very well.
No, I think you've addressed it in a number of ways. I would potentially add that there is also another principle in Codex, which is to ensure that consumers are not deceived. That's essentially what it is. The primary objectives of any provision related to health claims is stemming from the fundamental principles that labeling provisions should not be deceiving. The consumer should not be deceived. And as a result, as long as the information is presented in a manner that is not meant to deceive the consumer. So for example, if we know that based on traditional heritage, this food provides that, you caveated that statement. And of course, the idea is not to stop there and to be able to then take those elements and try to corroborate them by science. I don't know about the notion that one food alone is not, is not beneficial. Basically, we can argue that even not a single ingredient is not inducing that. Yet we are developing health claims related to specific ingredients and their beneficial effect on health, if certain conditions are fulfilled. So essentially, we can make claims in relation even with an ingredient or with a food. I mean, we are making claims in relation with that, so long that the claim is corroborated, supported by an evidentiary base. Most of the evidentiary base ought to be science-based, but sometimes it can be also from traditional knowledge. And again, it can be a trigger to invest in the characterization using scientific tools to better document those health effects. And that can be really a starting point. And by the way, I think this is what we want innovation to do. Innovation is a great catalyst for investment. And that's what we want, essentially. I think using the Indonesian example, we want research about African ingredients to be triggered, managed, led, and used in Africa. Yep. So, okay. With that, thank you so much for these discussions. I'm actually taking some notes now. I mean, trying to use this new tool, but I'm not. I'm still actually mastering it. I changed